No, I really don't. Maybe in very, very few cases this was justified, but as a whole, our VA hospital program, I think, is wonderful, and the hospitals are doing the best they can with the money they have appropriated to them from the government.
Is money a problem?
It is, yes. As, of course, the economy we have, why they seems as though when our federal government gets in an economy pinch, the veterans is always the one that it hits first.
In June or May of 1972, if this amendment does not pass, Texas will run out of money in all four of the categories: old age assistance, the blind, the mentally and physically handicapped, and the children on the AFDC rolls will receive no money at that time. And this would be a sad day in Texas indeed. What the legislature would have to do if this amendment fails would be to, in the remaining 12 days of the regular session, rush through another constitutional amendment, calling another special election for the people to have another opportunity to vote on. We could not, in good conscience, leave Austin without pursuing every possible avenue that we have to correct the situation.
Debate before audience.
A 2.5-year-old girl has been kidnapped from the Marion D. Tucker home here at 5804 Fursman in northwest Fort Worth. City police and FBI agents are searching for the girl, Melinda Tucker. Mrs. Tucker said the man who took her daughter was her 28-year-old brother, who had been babysitting with her children for the past 3 weeks while she was out of town. A ransom note was left behind late yesterday demanding $1,000 in cash. The ransom note gives the Tuckers until Sunday to come up with the money. Part of the note reads, "I have your daughter. I have a gun. Don't make me kill her." Mrs. Tucker says she doesn't know if her brother would actually harm Melinda, but she also said that she didn't think that her brother would even take her at this time, and she doesn't know where they may be at this time either. She didn't want to be interviewed on camera, but Mrs. Tucker does have a message for her brother. Simply, bring my baby home. Jim Green, Channel 8 News on the Move, Fort Worth.
Number one, the structure of the building is such that it was nearly impossible for the men to get in. The upstairs portion where the fire apparently started was double and triple ceiling. Subflooring was double and triple. Many walls. There were 12 horizontal walls in there that gave a lot of complications in the men getting to it. We had the second story portion, which is approximately 30 by 80, where the fire started and then went through the roof and came down. The total building was 70 by 125, and the structure being what it is was nearly impossible for the men to get to it. They had to work their way through a maze of many things. As you can see, it's a combination salvage yard, a cafe, and a hotel type place upstairs. These things all together made it extremely hard for the men to get in.
I think our policy has been clear for a number of years, and this antedates the Nixon administration, that we hoped that China would come back into some sort of responsible intercourse with the rest of the world. And now, at long last, I think our policy of Oriental patience has paid off. That they've realized that if they're going to be a part of the world of the 1970s, the policies they've had in the past just don't make sense.
Well, where we look at this as a step forward in relations with Red China, are they in turn looking at us as if, well, we're getting them where we want them?
Well, they have made an important strategic decision, I think. Namely, that the policies of the past, the tough line, simply haven't paid off. And so now they're going to have to move to a different sort of an approach to the world.
This would serve two purposes. One is it would get the state of Texas revenue from liquor by the drink 3 months quicker than we would under the bill that the Senate passed. Plus, I think a liquor by the drink in the wet precincts election will increase the number of people that are going to go to vote in this special constitutional amendment election, and I think it'll increase the chances for passage of our welfare amendment.
Barry, I know this has got to be a much more gratifying playoff series for you than it was a couple of years ago when you had to watch then.
Yes, it's much better. Playing here, I have a chance to help the boys this time instead of just sitting around like I did the previous year, or 2 years ago. It's much more exciting, and well, I know I just like giving them my help.
Barry, as you look back over the year leading up to the playoff series, were you satisfied with the kind of year you had?
Yes, I was. I came to camp in pretty good shape, and I decided that I'll do my best that I've ever done, if it was at all possible. And with this year, I'm very pleased. I had a lot of help from Coach Crom and from the players, and I'm just really happy with the year I've had.
You know, I'd kind of guess that it was probably a fairly crucial year for you because so much had been expected of you, and you had the weight problem in the knee and everything else, and so you've got to look pretty favorably upon your chances of perhaps going to Chicago next year.
I certainly hope so. I hope I have pleased a lot of people this year, especially the ones that can make my future a little brighter. But I am looking forward to next year with great anticipation, really. Yeah, certainly times have changed a lot since that disastrous first year. But I'm fully confident and hopeful that this season will bring it all back to Dallas.
Mike, as you look back on that first year, are there any fond memories at all, or was it just a year filled with tribulation for you?
Oh, there's a lot of fond memories. I learned a lot, I might say, that first year. One thing sticks in my memory above anything else, and that was about 3 days before we had a change of coach midway through the season. I was placed on the inactive list, and I'd been as close to getting released that my name had been taken off the shirt. And then we had a change of coach, and he invited me to the next scrimmage game, and I came along and he liked me, so I was back in the team again.
We're not using them, and we can't use them because the yellow cabs have, and their limousines have fairly well blocked off all the traffic coming from the terminal. Here behind me you can see the long line of cabs and limousines. The public cabs, my clients' cabs, are using this stand that's right in front of us. It's now being used by the general public because there's no traffic here. We would just be parking 3 cabs in this stand and not using them. So we don't even park here. We're allowing the general public to use them.
What's your alternative?
Well, we think probably if these traffic surveys and the lack of business continues for another week or two, we'll go to Mr. McGreedy and tell him we would like to have another location and give these stands back to the public so that they can load private vehicles here, and we should get some space where we can actually serve the public with our taxi cabs.
Have you got a particular space in mind?
Well, if we can't get in front of this luggage wing, we think there's a lot of room left on the far end of the airport. By the Braniff luggage wing, there's a lot of curb space there that's not being used now, either by the public or by the yellow cab company, and we think over there we might be able to serve the public better.
You think you're going to get what you finally want?
It took us 2 years to get these stands here, and I don't know how long it's going to take to get over there.
Racing, it takes a perfect blend of man and machine to come out on top. Always in control, never off course. He wouldn't have it any other way. He's the pace setter. It takes a perfect blend of man and machine to come out on top. Always in control, never off course. He's the pace setter.
This woman isn't a telephone operator. She's a telephone helper in the Internal Revenue Service for people who have income tax questions. The North Central Texas Regional Office of the Internal Revenue Service has set up a whole system of phone helpers in its Dallas office because of the number of calls coming in asking for help on tax returns. And they've also set up a special room with helpers for people arriving in person for help in filling out their income tax or just to get the answers to questions. The reason, as everybody knows, is that today is Income Tax Day. Every year, as April the 15th approaches, postal workers in Dallas are virtually swamped by the amount of mail coming in for the Regional Internal Revenue Office in Austin, which handles this area of Texas. The returns, of course, aren't supposed to be mailed to the Dallas office, and very few of them are anymore. They're supposed to go to Austin, but every year a few pieces of mail stack up in Dallas and have to be handled by hand and sent to Austin. This year, as always, postal officials in Dallas hope they've correctly anticipated the number of last-minute returns that'll be going to Austin. There are 4 men standing beside the terminal annex on Houston Street, waiting for motorists to drive by and hand them the envelopes, correctly addressed, to Austin, and if you get them in before midnight, the postal officials say they'll be postmarked April the 15th. By the way, you know, if you're the average taxpayer, you're not working for yourself yet. Until May the 10th, according to U.S. Chamber of Commerce figures, the average taxpayer is still working for Uncle Sam. Phil Reynolds, Channel 8 News on the Move at the Dallas Terminal Annex.
Can you place a damage estimate on it, or do you know how it started yet?
No, sir, I have no way of knowing yet. Haven't been able to talk to the owners or anyone who was here, other than just casually heard them mention before the owner went to the hospital that it did start upstairs in one of the rooms.
The people on welfare in Texas, in particular those who fall into the category of AFDC, are receiving a much higher level of medical treatment, of medical service, than anyone else in our society. So the average welfare recipient takes about $26 per month to maintain their health insurance. Well, a family of 4 who are not on welfare, their hospitalization, their health insurance costs about $300 to $350 a year. As I said, the state of Texas by 1972 will be paying $863 per year for this family. We have created a monster, and the federal government and the state government both are to blame.
Well, the problem is we're not getting any passengers from this cab stand. The yellow cab stand, which is directly adjacent to the terminal behind us, in that stand the cabs are almost bumper to bumper, and they're just a phalanx of cabs. We can't come through and get into the stand right here behind me, which is the public stand. You can see there's private vehicles here now they use for loading. We found in the first 2 weeks already that we're just not getting any business across this island and out here away from the terminal. So it's going to be necessary probably to either give the stand back or try to get some better location if we can.
And what better location do you have in mind?
Well, if we can't get next to the curb over here, we think perhaps there's some locations over on the curb area near the Braniff luggage wing.